In another example, it is important to distinguish wealth from income. Income is how much money a family or a household makes in a year. Now, wealth, on the other hand, is their net worth, more or less. Uh, so by the time 2013 rolled around, the bottom 90% of all households in the country, when it came to income, had a little over half of all wealth, 53%. The top 3% of all income households, however, had 31% of the wealth. This has only gotten higher as time has gone on, and this is also reflecting what is seen on a global scale. From the beginning of the post-war era all the way up to the beginning of the 1970s, uh, economic growth was sustained for several decades and was relatively evenly distributed among all different income brackets in American society. Starting in the 1970s, however, especially after the tumultuous political decade of the 1960s, this changed. What we saw was that the income growth for households in the upper percentiles of wealth rose while it stagnated for those down below. What happened after the advent of the 1970s was that the growth and the general economic prosperity experienced after America's victory in World War II was no longer being shared by everybody. This is a gap that has only grown over time since the beginning of the 1970s, especially getting pronouncedly worse after 1980. We see that eventually the top 1% of all of those in the nation when it comes to income end up having 192% more income in 2014 compared to where they were in 1979. Now, this figure for everybody else is no less than 70%, or no greater than 70%. Uh, Although the top 1% have a far more fluctuating income gain compared to 1979 over the following decades, this, however, does not mean that these numbers are any lower in any shape or form.
With that being said, solving U.S. economic issues and the economic divisions that we have center upon fixing the political system that has been ineffective and a detriment to any economic progress. The problems that lie in the economic divisions that we have are structural issues. Um, a flawed U.S. political system has led to the absence of any progress in government, which in turn affects the economic progress that we have. Certainly, with the stagnant growth that we have, um, the economy begins to falter and creates divisions among the different groups and classes. The performance of the economy affects the difference between large companies and small businesses, like they do between a more wealthy, affluent person and a person who is in the workforce. While large firms prosper from great strengths, small businesses are heavily affected by faltering growth as they rely on creating jobs. Moreover, with the stagnating income and limited job prospects that are associated with a stagnant economic growth, lower income and lower skilled Americans become disproportionately affected, which in turn creates a greater rise in inequality. Much of the economic problems that we have relating to economic inequality between different groups can be seen within the data. For example, the median real household income in the United States peaked around 1999, again, well before the Great Recession that we had in 2008. Since then, this number has fallen about 7%. With the real income levels for Americans declining, this leads to, again, the stagnating income and job prospects that lower income Americans have, leading to a greater rise in divisions that we have in the country relating to the economic issues that we have. With that being said, the issues that are seen between lower skilled Americans, lower income, and those that are higher up and more possessive of advantageous qualities can also be seen in parallels with how large companies and small businesses work. For a stagnating economy that's not going anywhere in progress, they tend to fare more better than small businesses, as they rely on different things like innovation capital and high quality management, while smaller companies have to rely on the actual workforce. In the same manner, a tax inversion allows large companies to take advantage of the U.S. corporate tax code. Meanwhile, small businesses cannot take advantage of that, leading to a greater division in the country, and why large companies are often faring better than their smaller counterparts. And much of the issue here especially revolves around the political system that we have. Without any progress being made there, we cannot solve the economic issues that we have, because a lot of the issues that pertain to economic division revolve around how we run our political system. Therefore, solving political division would in turn help solve economic division. But with a divided country politically, there's no progress to be made economically, leading to greater issues across the board.